Hey everyone, it's Nadine from Nadine Walks, and today's video is all about hand washing your clothes on the Camino. So I've gotten a couple questions about this, and I thought I would just do a short video to talk about what my process is. So I do hand wash my clothes pretty much 90% of the time when I'm on the Camino. Every once in a while, I do love using a washing machine to get stuff really clean, but I actually really kind of like the hand washing process. It is one of the chores on the Camino, but it's really one of the few chores you have to do while you're walking. And for me, it kind of signifies the end of my walking day. You know, I take a shower, I kind of settle into my bunk, get my stuff out of my pack, and then I wash my clothes. And once the clothes are washed and they're hanging on the line to dry, I feel like, okay, my work today's done. I can relax, just enjoy the rest of the day. So I don't know, there's just something really satisfying about hand washing my clothing. And I don't know if anyone else agrees, that might be a little strange, but I actually kind of like that routine on the Camino. So hand washing your clothing, all you really need is some soap and running water. It's not too complicated. But I wanted to talk about one extra thing that I use when I wash my clothing. So I always bring a bar of soap, and I usually use Dr. Bronner's, and that's just a brand that I found and started with for my first Camino, and I really like it. I think really any bar soap will do. If it's a more specialized bar soap, like for laundry, that's probably good. But I've used, once I run out of my Dr. Bronner's, if I'm on a longer Camino and I run out of the stuff that I brought, I'll just pick up soap in a store in Spain, like a grocery store. And sometimes maybe it's like specialized laundry soap, but sometimes it's just any bar soap that I can find, and it works, right? My clothing isn't getting like super clean, but I always figure it's good enough. I do use bar soap on the Camino, but the extra thing that I do and what I bring along is this little kind of like mesh bag almost, or like container for the soap. And this is something that I found recommended before I walked my first Camino. I can't even remember where I read about it, but I saw it recommended. I decided to try it out. And so I bought some. And it comes in now, like a pack. I find it in a pack of 4. And so these are the other 3 I haven't used yet. This is what I used on my last Camino. I think these are like $8 or $9 for the pack of 4. So they're really cheap. I will link to the actual product I use. There are probably several different kinds, but these are called Aquessentials Exfoliating Soap Saver Pouch. So I really like using this for a couple reasons. I use it as a transport for my soap. So the soap kind of fits inside. You'll see that this opening, kind of opens pretty wide. You can fit a big bar of soap in there, and there's a drawstring cord that cinches it shut. And so it's a great container for soap so that, it can fit a whole bar of soap. It can fit little bits of soap and kind of contain it all. But I also use this to actually wash and scrub my clothes. And because it's exfoliating, it really kind of creates this nice sudsy soapiness for my clothing. I think these were intended to use on your body to exfoliate, but I kind of like using them on my clothes. I feel like it just gets a little more, gives me the ability to scrub a little bit more. Now, you can just take a bar of soap and scrub at your clothes. You really don't need this, but I like it because once I'm done washing the clothes, I usually just kind of take this and I might just kind of hang it out somewhere if I can find a spot, whether it's, if the laundry station at an albergue is outside, I might hang it somewhere. In the shower, sometimes it's a little bit harder to hang this to dry in the shower if you're on a Camino with a lot of other pilgrims staying in an albergue, because I don't want this to get in anyone's way. I think sometimes on the lesser traveled routes where there aren't other pilgrims or many pilgrims, I will just hang this somewhere in the bathroom where it can drip either in the shower or over a sink to let it dry. And when I can do that, it's really nice because then when I'm ready to pack it up, I don't kind of have a sudsy mess. But I always just keep this in a big Ziploc bag. So even after I use it, sometimes it'll go right in this bag. And then when this bag gets kind of wet and sudsy, I'll just rinse it out and maybe sometimes leave it out to dry. I always bring a couple of these anyway, so if there's ever this develops a hole, which has happened, it's made stuff in my pack kind of wet without me realizing, I'll just replace it, and put this in a fresh one. So that's, those are kind of the reasons I like using these. It's just a tip. Again, you certainly don't have to, but I find that they kind of work really well. And like I said, I used it on my first Camino and I've used them ever since. And so then when it comes to hand washing your clothing, I'm really not going to go into a special technique. I mean, maybe you all have tips, but I really think, you just try to rinse your stuff out, get your clothing wet, scrub it down with a little soap, squeeze it out, rinse it out, get all that dirt and sweat out of the clothing, hang it up to dry, and you're good to go. It's probably not going to be the most thorough wash ever, but again, there are often washing machines on the Camino that you can use to really get your stuff clean. I would say that my favorite washing stations on the Camino will have plastic tubs, and I love to take all my stuff, put it in a tub, and kind of rinse it all at once, soap it up all at once, and then kind of squeeze it out to dry, rinse it again. That tends to be a little easier. And sometimes you'll find albergues with, really nice stations to wash your stuff. They might have a designated room with sinks and even some leftover soap and those plastic tubs in order to do your laundry. Sometimes that'll be inside the albergue. Sometimes there are stations outside, kind of behind the albergue. Some albergues don't have separate areas to wash your clothing, so you might have to do it in the sink in the bathroom. And this works. Again, you just need some soap and running water, but it's not as nice as if there's a separate area to do your wash. So I think that's all I have. This wasn't a very long video, but I did want to share these little, kind of mesh pouches that I use to wash my clothing with. Let me know, as ever, in the comments if you have any tips of your own, if there's a certain kind of soap that you really like, if you use bar soap, if you use liquid soap, just any tips that you might have that'll certainly help other pilgrims as they head out on their Camino. All right, everyone. Well, here in my area, it's another rainy Saturday. It's been raining, I think, every weekend, or at least one day of the weekend for weeks. But it's a good time to be here with all of you to make a video. So I hope you're all well, and I'll be back soon. Buen Camino.